Is inflation a monetary phenomenon? Actual inflation is a monetary phenomenon. There are other causes for an increase in the general price level, but those are not inflation. MV equals PQ, that is the formula for the general price level. M equals the money supply in circulation, V equals the velocity of money, which is how quickly money changes hands. P equals the general price level. Q equals the economy's output, or the supply of goods. It is only an increase in M, the money supply, causing an increase in P, the price level, which should be considered inflation. Changes in V or Q, the velocity of money and the supply of goods, are the real conditions of the market which M and P are supposed to measure. Think of prices as a signal relaying economic information and money as the medium which carries the signal. Supply and demand, Q and V respectively, are the real physical phenomena on which the signal is supposed to be reporting data. When the price of goods rises above the cost of production, increasing profits, that is a signal for businesses to increase production. When prices fall below cost, that results in losses, signaling businesses to reduce production, and might signal marginal producers to shut down and go into some other line of production. It is when the money supply is manipulated that prices become distorted. Inflation is an increase in the money supply caused by the printing of excess money by the monetary authorities. There are two factors contributing to the inflation of the prices of goods and/or services. The first factor is when demand exceeds supply, then prices naturally go up. The only way that this can be fixed is for the supply of goods, services to be increased. The second factor is when the amount of money in circulation exceeds the capacity of the economy to supply goods and/or services to match the quantity of money in circulation, then the backing value of money will fall below its face value and prices will increase accordingly. The only way that this can be fixed is for the money supply to be kept in line with the capacity of the economy to produce goods and/or services. The centralized production of new money completely separate from the actual points of demand for new money for the purpose of entering into exchanges makes this alignment well nigh impossible to achieve, as we know to our cost. Not only that, but there are vested interests in financial institutions who profit from this kind of inflation, so they are not interested in the closing off of this opportunity. However, with digital money, mobile phones, the internet and information technology, our phones could become our electronic wallets. Then new money could be issued to us as non-interest paying new money debt, when we are short of enough money to complete the purchase half of an exchange. The supply half of the exchange would be completed when we settled the new money debt. Credit cards already work like this, provided that you pay off the credit within a specified time period. There would have to be a money system enforced limit on the amount of new money debt that a person could carry at any point in time, and that is all that would be necessary to minimize freeloading on the community. If new money was only issued to individuals, no institution or other person, in this way, then money system-induced inflation would cease for good. Yes. Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. Milton Friedman, economist. Inflation is a general rise in all prices of all goods and services, not one price, not 10 prices, not 100 prices. If your local government raises property tax or business tax rates, that's going to cause local prices to go up, but not prices everywhere else, i.e. outside the jurisdiction of that local government. That's not inflation, that's just indirect taxes raising prices. Therefore, if your nation is experiencing inflation or, worse, hyperinflation, it's the central bank's fault and responsibility that there are too many currency units chasing too few goods and services. It's their job to manage the money supply and thus the value, purchasing power, of the nation's fiat currency. No one is on the gold standard any longer, almost irrespective of what the government does in fiscal policy, taxation and government spending. Almost. Yes, if the politicians and government leaders are irresponsible, that can cause the central bankers to have to react drastically to maintain the value of the nation's currency. Inflation isn't necessarily a monetary phenomenon, it is only calculated as a monetary sense to establish a relative comparison. Inflation is more of a supply and demand gap concept, where supply is relatively lesser than demand, the price thus commanded by the commodity goes higher. Now, inflation is also caused by many factors such as fossil fuel prices in the international market, for the countries who are more relied on the West Asian oil for their energy requirement. Inflation is very healthy in an economy, as it encourages every factor in production for an higher incentive, from profits, wages, input cost, etc. So, I would say it depends on the way inflation is measured, CPI and WPI, which requires monetary value of goods.